So, book discussion on Heart of Darkness.
Yep.
We're going to start out with talking about anti-imperialism, and then greed, and then racism
and exploitation.
and exploitation.
Yeah.
Yes. First we start out with anti-imperialism, which I think is almost the main theme of the novel. And I have a quote, actually a very good one, and I quote, "The conquest of the earth, which mostly means the taking it away from those who have a different complexion or slightly flatter noses than ourselves is not a pretty thing when you look into it too much." Well, yes, this pretty much sums up anti-imperialism, or at least when Marlowe realizes what he is a part of, when he has seen the dark underbelly of imperialism, and he does not, it kind of shatters his expectations of what it is and what it was for him.
Yes.
Yes.
I have a quote that emphasizes that thesis too. I quote, "But what made the idea of attack inconceivable to me was the nature of the noise, of the cries we had heard. They had not the fierce character boding immediate hostile intention. Unexpected, wild and violent as they had been, they had given me an irresistible impression of sorrow." I think this quote is about when Marlowe finally understands what they had embarked on and what they were actually doing. I think he was not really comfortable with it because he doesn't have that darkness inside of him that the book is about.
Well, it's good. It's continue. It's good. Darkness inside of him.
Yeah, that was that.
The darkness inside of him.
He doesn't have the darkness inside of him yet, because I think the book is about that, as Marlowe says, that every man can have darkness.
Inside of him.
Inside.
Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Inside
that's
of
good.
him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as you said, it very clearly emphasizes my point of him realizing
Yes.
how bad imperialism actually is.
Yeah, and at one point he says it was as unreal as everything else, as the philanthropic pretense of the whole concern, as their talk, as their government, as their show of work. The only real feeling was a desire to get appointed to a trading post where ivory was to be had, so that they could earn percentages. And
Yes?
yeah.
It's all about the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And I think that shows how greed can affect human beings in a very negative way.
Yeah.
And how money can destroy people and make them evil.
Yes.
I have a quote here where Marlowe says, "I've seen the devil of violence and the devil of greed and the devil of hot desire." And I think that this shows how greed and money and desire affect human beings and
They stop caring about people.
and how they make them devils and evil and dangerous.
Yes, it emphasizes Eleanor's point that it's all about making money, and the rest doesn't really matter.
It's all that is important.
Yes.
I think that greed and money becomes an obstacle for the human being's own right mind.
Yeah. They
And
can't control themselves.
No, they can't control themselves.
Themselves, yes.
Themselves and their sense of ethics and morals.
Yes.
And I have a quote about that. "He declared he would shoot me unless I gave him the ivory, and then cleared out the country, because he could do so and had a fancy of it, and there was nothing on earth to prevent him killing whom the jolly well he pleased." This is something that the Russian says, that Marlowe meets, and he explains that he could practically do whatever just to get what he wanted.
Yeah.
The curse. And
And greed. That's what greed is about. Getting what you want at any cost.
Exactly.
And I think Kurtz is actually greed personified in the novel. He is the example of what greed can do to humans and how it depraves us.
Yeah, I have a quote which says that they only show that Mr. Kurtz lacked restraint in the gratification of his various lusts. And it's about that he can't control himself. He wants his ivory, and it's all that matters.
Yeah.
The people on the way, it's like they're animals. Yeah,
Mm.
he wants his ivory.
And that then brings us into exploitation and how they exploit the indigenous population in order to
Yeah.
get their resources.
Yeah.
I think you had a very good quote on that.
Yeah, a quote of how they treat the inhabitants. It's they were dying slowly. It was very clear. They were not enemies. They were not criminals. They were nothing earthly now, nothing but black shadows of disease and starvation, lying confusedly in the greenish gloom.
Mm.
And it's about how they force the black people, the inhabitants, to work to death. As slaves.
Yes. And this is, as I said before, part of the dark underbelly of imperialism. And I can understand why someone at the time wrote a book as a response to this, because it's not a pleasant, it's an inconvenient truth at the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
About a darkness existing in humans.
Yes. And well,
Mm.
as I said, Kurtz is about greed. Marlowe experiences this, and he comes to terms with what kind of a world he's living in, and that all these things, racism, greed, imperialism, they're lined up, they're connected, and he realizes that the world he so desperately wanted to explore isn't as pleasant as he thought it would be.
No, we saw how they treated people at stations,
Yes.
and he got surprised and scared.
I think he was really excited
Mm.
because I think he saw it as an adventure
Yeah,
and something new.
Yeah.
he wanted to meet Mr. Kurtz, interesting person.
Yes.
And then,
Did you remember when he thought that he would not get the chance to meet him because he thought he was already killed?
Mm.
I have a
he
quote.
tricked them.
I have a quote when he thought that he couldn't meet him. He
Yeah.
said, "I couldn't have felt more of lonely desolation somehow. Had I been robbed of a belief or had missed my destiny in life." So the vision he had of meeting Kurtz had become like his dream or something.
Yeah.
Almost like obsessed with Mr. Kurtz.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was
he
obsessed
wanted to meet
because I think he was the symbol of maybe how a man should be at the time. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Powerful man.
Strong, powerful,
No,
money.
Money,
Mm.
yes. But then this image just gets shattered when he actually meets Kurtz.
Yeah,
Kurtz. And
everything changes.
yeah, because they were on a mission to retrieve this certain Kurtz, and when he travels up the river, he realizes that this is a unexplored world. It's a mystery. We don't really know what we are embarking on, and then they become kind of isolated on the boat, and the true nature of the man is brought out. And as also this may not have anything to do with greed or anything. Maybe exploitation, if you think of it as how they also treat the men at the time, the Westerners. How this world is so new to them, and they don't really know what to do with it. And
Yeah,
when
the
they're trying,
writer really describes Africa and Africans as so different than
Yes.
the West
Yeah.
world,
yes,
which also make the novel very racist
yeah,
in one way.
yeah.
Um,
Because you can understand in some way, because it is very new, and they don't really know much about it.
But they don't have to be mean to them. You
No.
have to respect
No.
them.
yeah.
Yeah, but that was the mentality of the time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I have a quote of an uncle and a nephew talking.
yeah.
You remember? And
Yeah.
I think that Marlowe was sleeping on the boat or something. And they say that, that's what I say, nobody here, you understand, here can endanger your position. The danger is in Europe. that's because they're white. They are, how do you say, above the black people.
They're superior.
Yeah, they're superior, and in Europe, maybe they don't like it, but in Africa, they don't know about it.
No.
Understand what I mean?
Yes. They really didn't. As I said before, Kurtz is the symbol of greed, and also the. I don't know how to put it, but this river is, at least it is to me,
The Congo River.
the Congo River, yes,
Yeah.
is a symbol of the inevitable road we go down when we're exposed to power. For some reason, at the
What do you
end,
mean?
I mean that he changes as he goes downstream, and then you, at the end, there's Kurtz, and he's the symbol. He is the end of the road where greed. I'm talking about greed.
The worst of all.
The worst. I mean, what the worst? The stop point where greed
But
has
do you mean
taken.
that Marlowe will end up there?
I don't know.
Or do you think that he's just on his way?
Yeah, maybe. I don't
He's
really know.
starting and
Yes, because
in his journey to
I don't think that Congo River, that this is like some kind of a symbolic road that describes imperialism and greed, and at the end there's Kurtz, and he is the ultimate example of how greed can deprave a man. And along the road, Marlowe gets exposed to this reality, and he kind of fights it, because the rest of the shippers are, well, they're transforming. Well, as he describes it in the book, that they're transforming, they're clearly changing when it comes to their nature, how they act to others, and I don't have to put it, but somehow the Congo River is for me a symbol of the road to depravity.
Interesting theory.
Yes, quite. And
But even Kurtz had something in him that wasn't. No, he was all about greed.
he was all over
He
it.
was all about greed because he actually did want to leave the business.
Yes.
And I have a quote. This man suffered too much. He hated all this, and somehow he couldn't get away. When I had a chance, I begged him to try and leave while there was time. I offered to go back with him. This is what the Russian says to him. This quote just shows that it wasn't an option to leave the business because he was addicted to.
He wanted to finish what he started.
Yeah.
He was kind of stuck in a pattern and he couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a quote that says, I think it's a manager at some station or something, talking to Marlowe, and he says that Mr. Kurtz has done more harm than good to the company. And probably that's because of his greed, and he's so greedy. He wants his ivory, and he can't get away from it.
Yes.
Yeah, but as you said that you thought Kurtz is addicted to the ivory business. Well, that shows that how addicting it is to get a hold of power. As soon as you get a taste of power, you don't want to give it up for anything else.
Of course not.
And he knows that in this world, this desolated world, he actually can have a lot of power over people.
And a lot of money too.
And a lot of money. So here's an example of what can happen to us if we get exposed to too much power and what the thirst for money and power can do to us.
Yeah.
Kurtz was really admired
Yes.
by every
Yeah. But I was-
seaman.
Well, yeah, he's a seaman.
Yeah.
He's a seaman. He was a seaman. Or a
Seaman.
shipper or something.
Seaman.
And, well,
But I think some of them thought that, oh, it's so greedy, he can't control himself, like this manager.
yeah. He
Who
will-
knows about what Kurtz has done.
Mm.
So he said that he ruined the territory, he
Yeah.
destroyed it,
Yes.
kind of.
And that was the start to this idea of anti-imperialism and how we Europeans exploited everything. Just as I said in the earlier quote, we just go in, conquer, exploit, and leave it there,
Yeah.
and there's nothing left.
No.
We're
No.
only egoistic about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very honest.
Yeah.
I don't think we've talked about everything: exploitation, greed, anti-imperialism, and
Racism.
racism, and some of the symbolism in the book.
Yeah.
My idea of the Congo River, what Kurtz is a symbol of. I think we've pretty much covered it all. Do
Yeah.
you have anything left to talk about?
No, I
No,
don't
I
know.
don't think so.
Yeah. Well,
Interesting.
Discussion.
interesting discussion, very interesting. Yes. Well, I think that's enough. Good talk. Good talk.
Yeah.
Good talk.
Good talk, mate.